Now that the dead period is over, who's going to be the next commit to USC?
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I am your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download your podcast, it's free. Always appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers, you can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Dead period is over. And that means coaches can make direct contact with players, recruits. Recruits can make visits. They can come on campus unofficially and officially. So will the next recruit, the next commitment for USC, will it be a California recruit? It's going to be someone from across the country? Does it matter? The last two guys were 1-1. USC got the best of both worlds. You had a quarterback commitment, class of 2026, Jonas Williams from Chicago, Illinois. And then you got Mote. You had Simoti Kadanga from Santa Margarita Catholic. Carson Palmer's team, defensive end, obviously from the state of California. USC put out another one of their social media videos, I guess we're going to start calling them. They put it out over the weekend. And all of a sudden, you start seeing, anytime you see one of these little fight on emojis on something that USC football tweets out, puts a message on X, your immediate thought goes to, all right, commitment. Who is it? Well, right now, this particular video, it has guys from the state of California talking about why they chose USC. Quote, to grow up in Cali and play for USC, it means everything. That was Makai Lemon. Also in that video, you've got Hussam Longstreet, Devin Tompkins. I love the messaging behind the whole thing and the whole focus on local recruiting, California recruiting. The way Devin spoke kind of gave me chills. He's got one of those old school souls. He was talking about how he wanted to do it for others. He comes from a really large family. And from a place that, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to go to places like USC. And he said he wants to do it so he can show others that, they have a chance to do the same thing that he did. So it was a really cool message behind, why he chose USC. And after watching that, this is, Devin's going into his fourth year now with the program. I can definitely see him having a monster year. He's the perfect example of coming in, biding your time, doing what's asked of you, developing, and then all of a sudden just turning in one of those, all conference type of seasons. Now, in the past, again, when USC puts one of those messages on X with the fight on emoji, it typically means a commitment is imminent. But, as I said, this was kind of a change up a little bit. So it's got people wondering. It had the fight on emoji, but with a video talking about, California recruits and why they should stay home and play for USC, there's been a lot of talk that, maybe there's a couple of local kids, local wide receivers specifically, who might want to make USC the place to be. One of them, so speculation is one of them could be, is Trent Mosley ready to, is he ready to pull the trigger? He's from the same school as Modi, Santa Margarita Catholic, plays wide receiver. The other guy that people are wondering about is he's already committed to the University of Georgia right now, the wide receiver from Mission Viejo, Vance Spafford. So those are two guys. When Jonas committed a couple weeks ago, when he flipped from Oregon, and then before the month of February ended, he's like, all right, I want to be a Trojan. He said the following. I've got a group of guys that we're working on right now, but I will definitely have some dogs around. Well, look, if you're looking for a dog at wide receiver, Trent Mosley fits the bill. I mean, look up the definition, you're going to see Trent Mosley. He's another one of those wide receivers in the Amon-Ra St. Brown mold. You know, not exceedingly fast, big, strong. He's 5'11", 170 pounds. But he plays bigger than his body, and he runs great routes. He's, again, he's another type of Amon-Ra St. Brown type of wide receiver. If a California commit is going to make a commitment, California recruit's going to make a commitment, he's definitely a possibility, right? I mentioned Spafford from Mission Viejo. He hasn't decommitted from Georgia yet. But I think most people feel this is just a formality right now. It's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, just a matter of when. So if you're looking for a dog, he's currently a Georgia Bulldog. Again, not the fastest or most impressive looking athlete. He runs great routes. He's got plenty of speed for a guy his size. He's someone you want on your roster. Look, if he's good enough to have offers from pretty much everyone in the country, including SEC teams, he's good enough to play for USC. So those would be the first two that pop into my mind. Others are saying, is Tom ready? Is he ready to decommit, make that flip? Probably not yet. But it's, again, USC feels like they're in a good spot right now. But I'll tell you what, that would be huge if that happened. I mean, right now, beginning of March, ahead of everyone starting to schedule their unofficial visits, official visits. I mean, nationally right now, the perception is the Trojans have some, like I said, everyone thinks that USC is in a really good spot for Tomahini to make that flip. Again, he showed up for USC's junior day, and ever since then, it's just been, whoa, USC's picking up more momentum, and right now it just feels like USC might even be in the lead, despite him still being committed to Oregon. So we'll see what happens there. Again, I don't think anybody will be surprised when he ultimately ends up signing with the Trojans. Excuse me. I mentioned Simoti a couple of minutes ago. When he committed to USC, this is what he said. I chose USC because I want to be a part of the change and revival. I always hear of USC being a powerhouse, but I grew up seeing that in Oregon. I want to be the team that inspires California kids to stay home and play for the Cardinal and Gold. Again, it's coming back to what we're talking about here. Despite whoever is next to commit, the emphasis is making sure those California recruits know USC is where you should be going. That video that they put out over the weekend, Mekhi Lemon talking about it, Devin Tompkins talking about it. You know, Husong Longstreet explaining why he wanted to stay home and play for USC. Pretty good stuff. So you got Modi, you understand his feelings on it. You know, he's also trying to convince his teammate, Trent Mosley. He said, yeah, I'm trying to get my boys, Trent and Talanoa Ely. So again, message has been sent. Get your friends to stay home. Let's play. Let's make USC great again. What has everyone really excited, and I can't emphasize this enough, is the California recruiting. And again, we're talking about USC commits right now. Rivals, they just got done holding their LA camp. Brandon Lockhart, commit to USC. He said it best. Quote, my name is Brandon Lockhart, class of 2026, 4-star cornerback, and I'm committed to USC. And you know, the best in Cali play for Cali. So what you all doing? Fight on. Perfect message. He threw the gauntlet. He threw the gauntlet down. He challenged the guys in California. Stay home. Play with me. Let's make USC feared again. Scott Schrader, friend of the show, over there, wearesc.com. He joined Josh Newberg, part of the On3 network. They did their own recruiting update. And Josh Newberg on his show said USC is the hottest team coming out of the dead period. I have a feeling that the temperature is seriously about to go up big time. And I'm talking about with USC recruiting. It has nothing to do with the weather changing. We're going into spring. The weather's warming up. So was USC. I'm telling you, if USC gets these guys just in California, getting the number one recruiting class nationally is great. But it's the big picture. It's long term. It's knowing that those guys want to stay home and represent. I've talked about this before on the show. Starting to get that vibe, that feeling again. There's no reason to leave the state. USC's got what you need. They've got NAL. They got the coaching staff. They'll get you the exposure you need. They'll develop you for the NFL. What else do you need? Like Brandon Lockhart said. What y'all doing? Fight on. Attention, Locked On USC fans. The future of college sports is here, and it's transparent. Before the Roy app, NIL negotiations often happened under the table, and fans didn't really have a clear way to directly support the athletes they love. Now, with Roy, you get to be a part of the change and support USC athletes in the most transparent way possible. Roy, the NIL app, allows you to choose the player you want to support, decide how much you want to contribute, and then you get to receive exclusive content from the athletes you back up. The best part, if your player transfers, you get your money back. It's a risk-free way to show your support. The Roy app has given fans control. No more uncertainty. Now you can provide transparent, impactful support and help shape the team and the future of the college sports with your contributions. Download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing USC athletes the way they deserve, with transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite players. All right, heading into the weekend, the NCAA, in their infinite wisdom, they decided to get together, and you're always going over the rules, looking for ways you can tweak them, change them, improve the game. Well, that's what they did. Over the weekend, they had the meetings, and they're trying to figure out ways to improve the 2025-2026 season by changing the rules that have been affecting the game lately. Some hot button stuff, including, those injury timeouts or those fake injury timeouts and the 12th man penalty that Oregon really held a spotlight up on. Those were two of the big ones. The recommendations would not become official until approved by the NCAA Player Rules Oversight Panel, which is scheduled to meet again April 16th. The biggest change would modify a rule to make it so that if medical personnel enter the field to evaluate an injured player after the ball is spotted by the officiating crew for the next play, a timeout would be charged to that team. Okay? So this is one way to stop teams from faking it. If that team does not have any timeouts remaining, a delay of game penalty would then be assessed. So, like I said, faking injuries is one way that a defense kind of slows down an offense, especially those offenses that run that, hurry up, no huddle stuff. Doesn't allow teams to substitute. It's been going on for years. Lots of teams do it. And some have made a real art form. I mean, first coach and team I think about, Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss. I mean, you see the ball spotted, and 5 seconds later, all of a sudden, a guy's dropping to his butt, grabbing his ankle, grabbing his knee. Like, come on, man. Yeah, don't do that. So again, like I said, lots of teams do it. I just picked out Kiffin because he's one of those guys who, you know what? What do they say? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Sometimes you can take it to the limit, and we're going to get to that here in a second. So this would be the first time an in-game penalty could be assessed for that, and there would not be a penalty assessed if a player goes down before the ball is spotted. So, again, make sure you're faking your injury before the umpire puts the ball down. Other rules that are being recommended for change: when if a game reaches a third overtime, each team would have one timeout to use for the remainder of the game. That would be a change from the current rule, with each team receiving one timeout for every overtime period. I'm thinking, all right, what's the big deal here? By the time a game gets into the third overtime period, let's not worry about how long the game is taking to end. At this point, having that extra timeout every overtime period isn't going to change anything. Look, I suppose it gives an advantage to the teams, with coaches that understand clock management and not substituting players with 12 seconds left or less sometimes on the play clock. Cough. Lincoln Riley, cough. Anyways, get beyond that. Here's another one. How about this rule change? When an official is announcing an instant replay decision, the referee will now only say if the call is upheld or overturned. It would eliminate the use of the terms confirmed and stands. I'm not sure why they're changing the semantics, why they're tinkering around with this. I mean, how does that change what happened to USC at Minnesota this past season? Where you have the replay official saying, well, I felt it in my gut. So, I mean, how does that adjust the play that's called on the field? Which on the field, it was no touchdown, just to remind everybody. So, I guess it's now upheld or overturned, not confirmed or as it stands. What's the difference? Seriously. This is why people hate the NCAA. People try and be smarter than they need to be, trying to change definitions. Talked about that in a recent rant. Anyways, moving on. Here's another one. No player may be in the direct line between the snapper and punter on punts. And if the snapper is on the end of the line, if the snapper is on the end of the line of scrimmage, he would lose scrimmage kick protection, meaning a defender could line up directly over him. All right, whatever. No more trickeration protection, I guess. Not sure this rule change really affects the game too much. But again, they got to do something. So let's look at this rule. Was there a play or was there a game out there in particular where this came up and they said, hey, we need to fix this rule? I don't know. Hit me up. Hit me up in the comment section. Here's another one. Any player on a kickoff return team who makes a T signal with his arms during a kickoff will result in the play being whistled dead as a fair catch signal. We're talking about this. So someone's standing on the goal line and they see the ball going over their head. They'll stand there like this, making a T formation. That's a result of what happened in the South Carolina game. Kickoff returner made the T-bar motion after the ball was kicked, which alerts everybody that he's not going to return it. Illinois started to hold up. They were on kickoff coverage, and most of the players thought the play was going to be dead. The ball was dead. But then the South Carolina player caught the ball and ran a throwback play. Anyways, South Carolina's head coach Shane Beamer made a big deal about it, saying it's within the rules. But it just feels like coaches are looking for any way to gain an advantage. And again, we're going to talk about one that really got exposed by, Oregon did this against Ohio State. That's coming up here in a second. The other one is called the disconcerting signals penalty. That's been called on defenders for simulating the snap count, where they're, got somebody on the line of scrimmage playing defensive line going, those types of anything that would, again, simulate a quarterback, asking for the ball. Now, offensive players cannot, use words like move or stem, which are terms that the defensive side of the ball will use when they're shifting to get, the guys on that side of the ball to maybe jump. A lot of mind games. I have a feeling this particular rule, if it goes into effect, there's going to be some issues. You're going to have a referee saying, "Oh, I thought I heard him say." Or you're going to find out who could be a really good ventriloquist at the line of scrimmage. I mean, you really want to start twisting things, looking for a loophole? Find somebody who can make the words without moving their lips, and then make it sound like it's coming from somewhere else. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. And then, how about the 12th man rule? Yeah, this is the Dan Lanning rule. You need to have a stiffer penalty for this. After the 2-minute timeout in each half, if a defense has 12 men participating in the play, the offensive team can take the 5-yard penalty, and if they choose, they can also reset the game clock back to the time showing at the start of the play. Again, this is only enforced if the 12th player participates in play. So in other words, if you see somebody running off the field trying to get off, you're not going to get the time back. You'll get the 5-yard penalty called against your team, but you're not going to, put time back on the clock. This goes back to that game where Ohio State and Oregon were playing, regular season. And Oregon threw a 12th player on the field late in the game. There was like 10 seconds remaining. Ohio State was facing 3rd down and 25, okay? I mean, it's already one of those. You don't have too many plays in your playbook that are successful for 3rd and 25. Well, Ohio State ran the play. Oregon had 12 guys on the field, and they knew they were going to get called for the penalty. They were willing to give up the penalty as long as Ohio State wasn't able to get the yardage. The play was incomplete. The pass was incomplete. So Ohio State picked up 5 yards, but they lost time off the clock, which was more precious. You had 2 downs. So now you only had 1 play left. It just shows you that, look, like I said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I love this rule change, though. Forget that it was 3rd and 25. You got to start teaching your team culture, values, how to play the game the right way. The fact that a head coach, number one, wouldn't show faith in his defense to stop a 3rd and 25, that's one thing. But then to blatantly cheat to gain an advantage, I mean, what kind of message are you sending to the young men you're trying to develop, mentor? Again, winning is one thing, but so are values and not cutting corners. And Dan Lanning failed at teaching that lesson. And that's why the NCAA is stepping in and saying, you know what, we can't have this. Play the game the right way. All right, one more segment to go. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. You'll love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether you're backing your team for that late game rally or picking a player to hit that clutch 3-pointer, you will never feel like you missed a chance. Plus, app super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers, you can get $100. You can get $150 $50 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com, join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. The women of Troy, they did it. They are the Big Ten regular season champs. Yeah, they went into Pauley Pavilion. They beat up the number 2 ranked Lady Bruins, Bruin Bears, Josephine. Gave them another loss. For the second time in a few weeks, USC beat the Bruins. This time it was 80-67. And it kind of felt like the deck was stacked against them. The refereeing was terrible. Can't remember the actual foul count, but USC had a lot of players in foul trouble. Excuse me. It might have worked out to their advantage because it made everybody contribute. Juju Watkins was still the player of the game, don't get me wrong, but when you have everybody, sitting on the bench trying to control the fouls, everybody now has a chance to step up, and that's what happened. Total team win. So the win gave the women the regular season championship. Now you've got Lindsey Gottlieb, Juju Watkins. They're going to lead the team into the tournament, and they get one of those double buys, and they have the number 1 seed, which is really important. And now, should the Trojans, coming out of that, if they win the Big Ten tournament as well, they're going to have the number 1 overall seed in the Big Dance. I'll be shocked if they don't. If they win one game and lose the other, the next, well, I don't know how many they would lose next, but let's just say they win one game and then lose the second round of the Big Ten tournament, they'll have a number 1 seed in one of the regions. They're really good. They've gotten better as the season gone along. The women's Big Ten tournament starts at the end of this week, Friday, Indianapolis. So make sure you tune in. Give those ladies the support they need. I'm not the biggest women's basketball fan, but you got to give credit where credit's due. And Lindsey Gottlieb, her and Juju and Kiki, they're doing well. Doing a lot better than the men's team, that's for sure. The men's team is just trying to stay alive for the Big Ten tournament. They lost their 5th game in a row. This time they was on the road in Eugene. They lost 82-61. And yeah, it was as ugly as I score. Look, they came out pretty hot. They looked ready to play the game. USC had a 15-4 lead. Dana Altman was calling the early timeout. Rashawn Agee was having a game of his life. He scored 10 of the team's first 12 points. He played 38, almost 39 minutes in the game. He was really the only guy who showed up for the entire game, as far as USC is concerned. He made 10 of 14 shots, 7 of 10 from the free throw line, 14 rebounds, which was a career high. USC had a total of 38 rebounds total. He had 14 of them. He also had 6 blocks, 3 steals, and an assist. I mean, it's a pretty good game. Pretty good game. So outside of Agee, Wesley Yates didn't have his typical Wesley Yates game, but he had a good game. And then Chibuzo Agbo, those were really the only guys who showed up on offense. No one else. So despite that fast start, leading 15-4, USC trailed 39-34 at halftime. And then they only ended up scoring 27 points in the second half. Yeah, that's how bad it got. I think Desmond Claude has hit the wall. His outside shot right now, when you watch his shot, it's always short. When I say short, it's hitting the front of the rim. That means he's got no legs. And the film is out there. They know. You can sag off of him a little bit, take away the paint, because his outside shot, it's not to where it needs to be. I don't want to say that the team gave less than 100%, 100% effort in this game on the road, but it looked like it. It kind of looked like it. Look, when you're only making 7 out of 30 field goal attempts and you miss 10, all 10 of your 3-pointers in the second half, it makes playing defense a grind. And USC did not look like they were playing with any type of passion on defense. Hopefully, they're not, just folding it up, saying we'll come back next year. There's still a chance for that tournament, but winning 5 games, there's no way they're going to get into that, first round bye. So now you got Washington coming up, and then you end the season at UCLA. All right, maybe spoilers the role for the Trojans this year. Anywho, all right, that's it for this episode of Locked on USC. Now that you're done watching this episode, you made it your first watch, your first listen. Don't forget, check out the other shows on the Locked on Network, Locked on College Football, and then get on over there to weareSC.com. Like I said, dead period's over. The recruiting season's really about to heat up, and that's your place for all of your inside intel, what I don't bring you here, because that's where I hang out when I'm not here. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.